Americans eat a lot of shrimp, almost 18 million servings a day. That makes it more popular than tuna. But here's something you might not know. Almost all the shrimp we consume in the US comes from overseas, sometimes 8,000 plus miles from our dinner plate, with most raised on farms in countries such as India, Indonesia, and Thailand. And to maintain large production levels, some of those farms use antibiotics to fight disease. That's a problem, because antibiotics are not approved by the US for shrimp farming. And it's illegal to import shrimp raised with antibiotics into this country. The antibiotics can hide poor hygiene in ponds where many shrimp are raised. And overusing such drugs may lead to antibiotic-resistant bacteria. That's a public health risk if the antibiotics no longer work to treat human ailments. Consumer Reports tested 342 packages of frozen, raw, and cooked shrimp purchased in 27 cities across the US and detected antibiotics on 11 samples of imported raw farm shrimp. The samples that tested positive for antibiotics were purchased at large chain supermarkets, natural food stores, and big box stores, including Costco, Kroger, and Walmart, among others. What's more, we also found bacteria in 60% of our raw shrimp samples, including Vibrio, a common cause of food poisoning from oysters. At Consumer Reports, we believe you should know where your food comes from and how its production impacts your health, the public food supply, and the environment. So, let's follow the journey of an imported farm shrimp to US shores to see what problems might arise. We'll also recommend what labels you should look for when shopping for shrimp. Trouble can begin before a pond has any shrimp in it because construction can damage natural coast areas. Once built, overcrowding with shrimp may trigger other problems. In some cases, 150 shrimp may occupy an area the size of a 60-inch flat-screen TV and feed on a diet of commercial pellets, sometimes containing antibiotics. Other chemicals may also be used to ward off disease. These shallow ponds can stretch for acres and, if not carefully managed, may discharge wastewater filled with shrimp fecal matter and chemicals into nearby waterways. Shrimp generally travel from ponds to processing facilities where they are deheaded, shelled, deveined, and packaged. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration requires processors to identify health hazards, but tests on imported shrimp by Consumer Reports Food Safety and Sustainability Center found bacteria on some samples, including ones that can cause staph infections and food poisoning. This suggests processors may not always practice good hygiene, such as washing hands or wearing gloves. What's more, the FDA requires processors to ensure shrimp bound for the United States aren't raised with unapproved substances, including any antibiotics like tetracyclines. But last year, the FDA tested less than 1% of imported shrimp shipments, so enforcement is very limited. Retailers and consumers rely on the FDA for inspections. In the 11 instances where Consumer Reports found traces of antibiotics on shrimp, the samples were purchased at these stores: Albertsons, Costco, Fry's Marketplace, Hy-Vee, Kroger, Sprouts Farmers Market, and Walmart. The residues were found on shrimp imported from Vietnam, Thailand, and Bangladesh that Consumer Reports began testing in April 2014. Consumer Reports is not alleging that these retailers violated any laws. It is the FDA that is charged with keeping contaminated shrimp out of the United States. In most cases, we also purchased raw, farmed, imported shrimp from these stores that tested negative for antibiotics. And the small quantities of antibiotics we found likely wouldn't affect a typical consumer's health. But according to the FDA, if any of these antibiotics had been detected in even one shrimp, the entire shipment would have been refused entry into the US. Consumer Reports wants the FDA to step up inspections at US ports and at overseas shrimp farms and processing plants. We also want the agency to increase lab testing on imported shrimp for antibiotics and bacteria. We have shared our test results with the FDA and asked them to investigate. The FDA says it has proposed new rules under the FDA Food Safety Modernization Act that may help ensure that shrimp imports are not adulterated. For more details, see our full report at greenerchoices.org/shrimp. What can you do right now as a consumer? Know that many labels you see on shrimp packaging can be meaningless or misleading. Ever see terms like organic or natural? There are no US standards for these labels when it comes to seafood. And here are labels Consumer Reports recommends when shopping for farmed shrimp: Natureland, Whole Foods Responsibly Farmed, and Aquaculture Stewardship Council. For recommendations when it comes to buying wild shrimp, visit seafoodwatch.org. And for more information on safely shopping for and preparing shrimp, check out consumerreports.org.